I'm Suzanne Borden, Moment Magazine's Zoominar producer, and in a minute, I will hand the program over to Joe Alterman, Executive Director of Neranenah. We are very excited because today marks the official launch of The Pulse, Moments That Matter, which is our new series of frank conversations on culturally relevant topics with musicians, comedians, and other entertainment industry professionals. The Pulse is a joint initiative of Moment Live and Neranenah, a nonprofit cultural event series with roots in Jewish culture and musical traditions. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Judy Gold. Judy has had stand-up specials on HBO Comedy Central and Logo. She was part of the Netflix special Stand Out, an LGBTQ plus celebration, and she is one of the main subjects in the Hulu documentary Hysterical. Judy has been on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, The Tonight Show, and The View, among many other appearances, as well as having many TV and film credits. From 1999 to 2010, Judy was the host of HBO's At the Multiplex with Judy Gold. She has also won 2 Emmy Awards for writing and producing The Rosie O'Donnell Show, and recently she was a writer on the final season of FX Better Things. Judy has 3 comedy albums and has written and starred in 2 critically acclaimed off-Broadway hit shows, The Judy Show, My Life as a Sitcom, and 25 Questions for a Jewish Mother. Judy is the host of the hit podcast Kill Me Now with Judy Gold and has appeared on MSNBC, CNN, and News Nation as a free speech advocate. Judy is the author of Yes, I Can Say That, When They Come for the Comedians, We're All in Trouble, a critically acclaimed book about free speech and cancel culture, which debuted as the #1 comedy release on Amazon and was featured in the New York Times Book Review. Judy's new one-woman show, Yes, I Can Say That, will premiere off-Broadway in March. In conversation with Judy is Joe Alterman, the executive director of Neranenah, which celebrates Jewish contributions to music and the arts. Joe is a jazz musician and has performed at many world-renowned venues and with the likes of Ramsey Lewis and Houston Person, among many others, as well as his own trio. Joe has released 4 critically acclaimed albums, including his most recent, The Upside of Down, live at Birdland. Please welcome Judy Gold and Joe Alterman.
Thank you, Suzanne. Hey, Judy.
Hey, Joe. Good to see you.
Thank you for doing this.
Oh, please. Anything for the Jews.
Anything for the Jews. Perfect. Well, I thought it'd be a great place just to start. I love your book, and you kind of touched on how you feel like tikkun olam or stand up is tikkun olam in a sense. And I was just curious if you could kind of elaborate on that.
Well, I think that laughter makes the world a better place. And it's tikkun olam in a lot of different ways. It gives the marginalized a voice. It also allows you to see the world through someone else's eyes. It makes you more comfortable. You know, when you see a comedian who perhaps has a disability or the child of immigrants, LGBTQ, Jewish, any sort of marginalized group who is talking about what it's like to be them and navigate the world humor is the most palatable way to get your point across. It makes us better people. It makes the world smaller, and next time you encounter someone with that disability or a trans person or a gay person or a Black person or anything that is not in your world, you have an understanding. And the other part of the tikkun olam is the fact that it seriously has medicinal benefits, laughter. It really helps your immune system. And, as someone who is, I always, my father served in World War II. I think about the Holocaust every day. I have this book, actually. Where is it? And it's something that I got really dressed up for you people. It's something It's an academic book. It's very dense, but I don't know if you see it kept us alive, humor in the Holocaust. And I've been reading this, for my show, and there's so many unbelievable stories in there about how we used humor, how they used humor it was the only thing that made them feel human. And so for me, it's something that, I don't want to live in a world without laughter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You said you laugh to keep from crying, which
oh yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, there's a lot of similarities with music there. There's a great quote of Louis Armstrong, "It hurts so good,"
right,
talking about the blues, which I love. But I guess there's a lot to get into here, but I guess just, I know art always reflects the time in which we live. So I was just curious, with the things you're dealing with being a stand-up comic right now, like, where are we right now?
It's so interesting because, we have this First Amendment right, and it's the First Amendment. So it's an important right, this free speech. Mm-hmm. But as far as comedy is concerned, when you take the comedian's intent out of the formula, there's content there. There's intent, there's context, and there's nuance. Mm-hmm. And when you take those three items out, which is exactly what happens on social media, but there's no more humor. You can take a joke a different way than the comedian intended, and then you can be offended. It's what you do with that, Mm-hmm. There's so many Jewish comedians, and I always say it's because we're taught to think out of the box. Like your bar and bat mitzvah, what is that? Or b mitzvah, what is that? That is taking a piece of text that people have been arguing over for thousands of years, and saying, here, make this relevant to you, and find something new. And that's what a joke is. It's a surprise. It's seeing something that you, or marrying two things that normally don't go together. But what's happened is we now have this, people are triggered by words, so they don't listen to the full thought. We have, I blame both the left and the right, because I feel like, we have this First Amendment. And I think sometimes the left will take intent out of it and say, no, but if I feel this way, then that's valid. And that's it. I'm going to destroy this person's life because they made me feel bad, whatever. But the right, they lie. They spread conspiracy theories. They say words and harmful things that incite violence. And comedians, we just want to make you laugh. Mm-hmm. But the right complains, oh, no, I don't know why I can't say whatever I want. No one has a sense of humor. But you're also banning books. Mm-hmm. So you can't ban books or say people can't learn about certain things, and also say I can say whatever word I want. I can joke about whatever. You can joke about anything, but the joke better be funny. That's the thing. You can talk about any topic, but the more subversive the topic, the funnier the joke needs to be.
Yeah, there's this one quote in your book that really stuck with me. A few of them. One was, "Our society is the point where feeling uncomfortable is so completely unacceptable." Mm-hmm.
It's, to me, I don't, we're protecting people from having feelings or feeling anything or feeling uncomfortable. And I feel like, the world is not a safe place or a safe space, and I think you have to be prepared. I mean, I said, you know, like, this idea that everyone gets a trophy. You get a trophy for winning the race, breaking the record, and you get a trophy for smiling while he did it. No, that is not how the world works. And so once everyone thinks their opinion, based on facts or not, is as valid as, you know, they do this on cable news all the time. They will have someone on who is talking factually about something, and then they'll have another person on who is obviously not an expert or not, you know, and give them equal sort of time and validity, and it's not helping us. It's not. I don't think it's making us, you know, smarter people.
Yeah, I saw this tweet that said, "How did a generation that grew up on South Park and Family Guy become offended by everything?"
Right.
There's a lot there, and yeah, I mean,
you know, a lot of them, Joe, are offended by proxy. Like, you know, I was friends with Gilbert, and Gilbert Gottfried, and we often talked about this. You know, Gilbert, just the nicest guy. I mean, and we talked about how audiences now, you know, it's involuntary. You know, laughing is involuntary. If you find something funny, you laugh. Audiences will laugh and then go, "Oh, right, not supposed to. Oh, right." And we talked about, why would you stop yourself from laughing? Like, if something's funny, why would you, you know, it doesn't lessen, if you're laughing at a joke about a horrible situation, it doesn't lessen the you know, the feelings, or it doesn't diminish that people went through a terrible time. It acknowledges that it happened, and it's a coping mechanism. Jews have used this coping mechanism forever. You know, we came over here and we had our wits. We had good wits, and we used it. And it's a coping mechanism, and it's a weapon. I mean,
yeah.
You know, go ahead.
No, I was just going to tell you, I mean, you know, I consider myself a pretty liberal guy, but, you know, this program is even called Let the Comedians Say What They Want. I've even had some fellow liberal friends. How could you, you know, they were giving me backlash just over the title of the program, because they get offended by a lot of things.
But then you can get offended. Fine, totally. Get offended. Move on with your life. Don't watch that person. Don Rickles, can you imagine if he was alive right now? And, you know, if you went to a Don Rickles concert and you left there without being singled out by him and abused by him, you thought you got cheated. Everyone wanted to be abused by Don Rickles. And his whole point was, oh, you have this and you do that and you're that. And we're all people. We're all the same. And everyone knew that, you know, that everyone was equally whatever, you know.
He hated everyone equally, wasn't that his
right? He was just saying, "Oh, you're that," so you know. He was, but he had a caustic warmth, you know. You know, you're offended. People get offended. I find, you know, you're a musician. You watch other musicians, and you're probably like, "What the hell is he doing? What the hell is she doing?" You know. And the audience is, oh, terrific. You know, I stand sometimes in the back of these comedy clubs. I know where the punchline is. I always know where the punchline is. But the fact that they're laughing at that is, I'm thinking, oh, wow, you know, this is crazy. And you can't, you know, anger. Like I don't know if you were going to bring this up, but, you know, Roseanne just had a special. I haven't watched it. I've watched clips on Fox News. A Fox, you know, they produced it. And, you know, in it, you know, she's very angry, of course, because she was canceled. And basically it's like, what is wrong with you? You know, she's coming from this place of anger. And I think you have to process the anger before you can make jokes about it. You know what I mean? You have to really understand this is coming from anger. Where's the joke? Where's the twist? So, you know, I get that she's angry, but, you know, some of this stuff it's not, you know, it's just not funny because it's not coming from a funny place. And I really do think, you know, people saying, how can you do this program? I mean, that's so upsetting.
Oh,
you don't have to come.
Yeah, no, totally. And I mean, I had friends who honestly, they really liked the You People movie. I don't know if you've seen that yet. They loved it. And
I saw it.
Then all the backlash came out, and then they said, actually, I was offended by, I mean, not, you know, just people I know.
I did know. I talked about that. I talked about that movie on News Nation. And as far as I was concerned, first of all, it's a movie with characters. And I felt, honestly, I was sitting there with my co-writer, my writing partner, and just like, this is not funny. Like, it's just not funny. And these tropes, like, you could have done so much better. It's lazy. To me, that's lazy. And I understand you want to get, you know, where you want to get to. But I mean, it could have been so much more layered and sophisticated. I mean, I did not think it was funny, but is it dangerous? It's a Netflix movie with Eddie Murphy. You know, it's ridiculously, I didn't like the way it was written, but Kanye is dangerous.
Right.
Kanye is, you know, has more followers than there are Jews in the world. And we are in a precarious situation right now. You know, I am really careful because of anti-Semitism. When I get on stage, I really take in who this audience is. And my line is, if they're going to laugh for the right reason. If they're going to laugh for the wrong reason, I am not going to, that's my line. Especially as a Jew now. Yeah.
I mean, you talked in your book a bit about how, like, when you speak from experiences that you've been through, people who have been through similar experiences usually laugh, and the other people who have not are the ones who, you know, get offended. So I was just curious, like, how do you reconcile telling a Jewish joke that you've experienced and then someone taking it and saying, you know, turning into anti-Semitism or saying you're being anti-Semitic?
Well, that's where intent comes in, you know. It's so interesting, the people who do comment on, I mean, I have years and years ago. I mean, I used to do my mother all the time. She was just she wrote my act for me and she loved it. And I would have people saying, you know, I did the Tonight Show, and you're doing a stereotype. And I was like, no, I am actually doing my mother. And that's literally what she said. And it's funny. And I I travel all over this country and talk about my Jewish mother in places where there are no Jews, and they have mothers. Do you know what I mean? And so they can relate. There are certain things I'll do for Jewish audience because I know they won't get it, or they'll, you know, they won't get, you know, jokes about, you know, parv, you know, Passover, like just certain jokes that are very Jewy. But I talk about anti-Semitism when I get on stage now a lot. And I preface, and I talk about Israel and how, because I've been, you know, I was there this past summer, and my son was playing basketball for the Maccabi games, and then I'm going back again, and I love Israel, and I talk to them, and you know, it's so funny. I'll say, "Oh, I was in Israel," and you'll, ooh, and I will say, what's the problem? Did you know it's a democracy? Did you, their government isn't great, but our government isn't great either, but they have a right to exist. And did you know women are equal there, and they have an LGBT pride parade, and I say, I recently asked someone, why are you against Israel? And literally said to me, I think something with the Palestinians or something, like, no idea. And so when I get on stage and I talk about being Jewish, which I always talk about, I now say, by the way, we are 2% of the population in this country, and we're 0.2% of the population of the entire world. Get some perspective. And I have a microphone. And as I get older, I realize, I want to use it for good.
It's brave. We need it.
We totally need it. I mean, I'm at the point now, I am in the back. I see comics get on stage and say they're Jewish. I'm so thankful. I'm like, thank you. Because so many avoid it. And it's like, if the audience likes you, right? It's disarming. Comedy's disarming. So they'll like you. It's like when I came out in 96 on stage as a gay parent. And they had already liked me, and now they have this new information about me. And there was sort of a palpable shift in the beginning where people were like, wait, I didn't know. Oh. And then I just started talking about being a parent and like all the crap that happens to same-sex parents. And they forgot, and then afterward, and I can't tell you how many people came up to me after a show. Oh, you know what? I'm gay, or my sister's gay, or my aunt, or whatever. I had a guy in Houston say to me, this is like in the late 90s, that he understood now why gay people wanted to get married. I mean, from a comedy set.
Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah, it's totally powerful.
Wow. I know you mentioned like people who now come up and will tell you they don't like a specific joke or whatever. When did that happen? Did that happen to Joan Rivers? Did that happen to you in the early 2000s or the 90s?
Oh my God, Joe, I don't know what people say to you after your shows, but because comedy is so personal, like you're getting an element of that real person. It's not it's not, people think, oh, I know all this stuff about you now. And so people feel close to you, like they want to tell you stuff, and they will critique. It's unbelievable. I didn't like that joke. That joke offended me. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? I'm sorry it offended you. I'm really not sorry it offended you. Move on with your life,
Yeah. Have they been doing this your whole career?
Oh God, people say things to comedians. You have no idea. It is unbelievable. The things, I saw the other, a few, I don't know, he saw you somewhere a long time ago. You weren't good then. Okay. Like, it's like, no one asked you, but now with social media, it's like, it's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. But yeah, the fact that they pick on comedians, we have no power. But we do speak the truth. And, we speak truth to power. I mean, Lenny Bruce was jailed for swearing. They really wanted him on the substance of his material. He was talking about segregation and abortion and the Vietnam War, and government corruption. And they would stand in the back and wait for him to say a curse and then take him out. But I think, look, every time you watch a panel show where there's always a comedian on there because they're going to break the tension and they're going to call people out on their BS, you know? So, you know, we do serve a purpose. And I don't know if people know this, but in 1934, Hitler passed the Treachery Act, which was this punishment for making any jokes or even hearing a joke about the Third Reich. You were punished by death. I mean, that is silencing comedians is the end of freedom and free speech. Look what happens. Look what happened with Charlie Hebdo. We had a president a couple years ago who would not go to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, who wanted the DOJ to investigate Saturday Night Live because his feelings were hurt and he wanted them to stop, that's the weaponry. If you don't have that in your armor, you are so, I guess, insecure. You don't know how to react. It does weaken propaganda. And so that's why when the right is always saying, why can't I say whatever I want? And then I say, well, your president couldn't even go to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Yeah, well, it's really hard. It's hard because we really just want you to laugh. And once comedians, that I'm telling you, that's it. That is it. I mean, what they're doing to journalists now.
Well, I mean, when we look back at, the 50s and 60s and they talk about the truth tellers,
right.
Oh, they're always first.
Oh, Mortzall. Yeah, absolutely. George Carlin. Man. I mean, what's incredible is that and Richard Pryor, they still are big topics on Twitter when something happens. Richard Pryor, when George Floyd was murdered, Richard Pryor had a on one of his albums, he had a bit N versus police. And that was the number 7 download on Spotify the week George Floyd was murdered. Sorry. And the fact that you hear George Carlin, it's the same stuff, We're preaching. And then there's other comedians who don't even broach anything controversial. Observational comics. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times in the past 10 years I've heard, I wish George Carlin were still here.
Oh my God, I think about that all the time. But I also think, the ones who don't broach any sort of subversive topics or oftentimes they're canceled because of what they do off the stage, Bill Cosby. So and it's so hard to separate the persona on stage and the persona off stage. But yeah.
Oh, you had a funny quote from, I think, your mom in the book.
Oh God, there's so many. Yeah.
Why do you curse so much, Cosby?
Oh my God, yeah. My mother always said, Judith, why do you curse so much? Bill Cosby doesn't curse. I'm like, yeah, but I also don't drug women and then rape them. So yeah.
Well, this kind of brings to mind kind of a 2-part question, which is, I know this book came out in 2020. So I know someone, I think it said in the forward that someone, asked you to write this book.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. But I was curious. I mean, why do you think they asked you to write it then? And in the 3 years since 2020, has anything changed?
Well, they asked me to write it then because they saw me on a piece on Vice News about cancel culture. And I forgot exactly what it was, but it was college students. So when we, comics, I used to do so many colleges, and it was something that comics always wanted to do because the money was good and they were smart. They're college students, And then they had these 3 college bookers on, and they were talking about telling the comedians what topics they can and cannot talk about, what words they, and they could use and not use, and they're protecting the students. And now no one wants to do colleges. And so I was the opposite. I was doing the opposing viewpoint. And, when you stop talking about things, that's when we stop evolving. Think about, all right, I'm way older than you, but I grew up watching Norman Lear shows. And All in the Family would never get on a network today. Maude had an abortion episode. It was a 2-part episode where Maude ends up having an abortion. That would never get on network television. But you know what it did? We were invested in these characters, right? They were like a part of our family. So when something happened to them, we all talked about it because we all watched it at the same time. It fostered discourse, and that's what you want to do. But now it's like, no, we don't even want to talk about it. I'm sure I said things. I mean, I know things I've said 20 years ago aren't funny. Some of them aren't funny anymore. The world has changed. You can't go back and say, oh, you said this. Okay, but the world was a different place 20 years ago, Oh, I wanted to say, when you talked about doing jokes for certain groups, there's this thing called the intersensitivity effect, intergroup sensitivity effect. And scientists developed this thing where if you are a member of a certain group, you will laugh more. It's like, I equate it to like when my older son used to beat the crap out of my younger son. And one day I'm like, Henry, what if you were at the schoolyard and you saw some kids beating up Ben? And he was like, no, I would kill them. Only I'm allowed to beat up Ben. And it's like, yeah, exactly. And as far as stereotypes are concerned, they weren't, they're not created out of thin air. They're part of our history, And I think you can use them wisely if you're describing one person. You can't call an entire group something, but if you're talking about one person and they have some sort of, stereotypical behavior, it paints a picture.
Well, it's why I can laugh at, you're overprotecting mom jokes because
oh my God. I wish she was here. She was. I actually.
My mom might be here.
Okay. Hi, Mom. You did a great job. He's so cute.
But he needs a haircut. That's what she would say. That's what she would say.
He's so adorable and talented.
Well, one day I'll tell you about when she called the cops on me during Hurricane Sandy because I didn't have service on my phone.
Oh my God, that's so my mother.
Yeah, I related a lot to much of your. Yeah. Well, I just got 2 more little questions before we open up to the audience. If that's,
yeah.
Yeah. I know, to me, it's fascinating that you're turning this book into a show. So I was just kind of curious, like how that happens. What's the difference, but like,
it's
fans
like
of your book, what will they expect?
So the show, it's sort of bringing the book to life, but it is much more personal. The show, the book has so much history in it. And in 75, 80 minutes, I can only make the points that are, really important. And it has to be personal. You want to bring the people on this journey with you. Like it's also when we talk about getting offended, there's this, a comedian, when they get on stage, the first thing they have to do is develop a trust with the audience, that the audience is like, oh, I trust that person. They know what they're doing. I get, you know, and then you can go anywhere. But, so the show is way more personal. I talk a lot about, you know, my idols growing up, which were Toady Fields and Joan Rivers. I love Phyllis Diller. But I had women comedians to look up to. I heard Joan Rivers say on an interview that she never saw women comics. She didn't know what she wanted to do. And she never could look at the TV and say, oh, that's what I want to do. Because there weren't any. So, you know, it's a lot of that, and how much I love comedy and how important it is to our survival as a human race and the direction we're going into. And we should be scared.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, like, I'm curious what you would say to this guy. Like, one of my favorite clips ever is Don Rickles' Sammy Davis Jr. roast.
Right.
Sammy Davis, I mean, none of the stuff he says would, you know, be aired today.
Right.
Sammy Davis is laughing hysterically at it. And I've watched that with people who, as they're watching Sammy Davis, you know, hysterically laugh, they like storm out of the room because they're offended by what.
Right. Offended by proxy. If he's not offended.
Yeah. What would you say to these people who are storming out of the room?
Why are you offended? And the thing about those roasts, it's not like that now, but those roasts from years ago, they all knew each other. And that's why they were so funny. And that's why they could get away with that, because they loved each other. And if you listen to a bunch of comics at a table talking, I'm sure you'd be offended. And we just love it. It's like a hug, you know? So if he's not offended, like, that's what I used to say about when I talked about my mother. I'm like, if she's not offended, why are you? You know, that's about you. That's the thing. It's always about them.
Well, my last thing.
Okay.
I mean, I play music, and I often am looking out at the audience at my gigs, and I know, you know, different political leanings of different people in the audience, but to me, it's so beautiful that I can tell that no one's thinking about that at the time.
Right.
You know, I'm not talking politics, but I guess I am kind of distracting, you know, not distracting.
Right.
In a way, a distractor. But I mean, I feel like in comedy, it's so divisive now. Like, how can we get back to it being a bridge?
Well, it's so funny because at the end of my shows, I'm like, we don't know anything about, you don't know anything about the person sitting next to you, and you don't know that, and you could hate each other on paper. And yet we all sat in this room together and laughed. And we, you know, we all feel better and lighter. And yeah, it's really, it brings people together. It makes the world a smaller place. I mean, after the pandemic, I can't tell you how great the audiences are, because they were so bereft of you know, comedy and entertainment, and they just needed to laugh. And so many people, after the pandemic was over, would come to a show and say, this is the first time I felt like a human being. You know?
Man.
Yeah, stop taking yourself so damn seriously.
Yeah. Man. Well, yeah, it's
Joe,
it's so special.
Right. And if the comic is abusing me, you know, it's like the biggest compliment.
Well, I mean, to me, like, I'll go to a different country and play with a musician who I can't speak the language. We'll find out we have so much, you know, on paper, we seem so different, but then in the end, we realize, you know, everyone just wants to be happy and be loved. It's the same thing. And to me, when I'm seeing a comedy show or seeing a music show and feeling together with everyone, that's when I really am reminded of how everyone's the same.
Right.
And it's just so sad that we're not you know, we're not quite there.
Right.
So it's, you know, I appreciate you having this chat. And I know I'm sure the audience has some questions. I'll let Suzanne come in. But
Great. Thank you both for that conversation. That's wonderful. I do want to put a plug for Judy's book. If you don't like to read and you want to actually listen to the audio version, Judy reads it. Oh, where's she?
Oh, I was trying to put it on the thing.
Oh. But
did you see it?
It's fantastic to be able to actually, we cannot see.
Oh, all right.
You can try it one more time.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, wait, I have a good idea. Why don't I just reach down? Yes, I can say that when they come for the comedians. Yes. But yeah, the audiobook.
Being able to listen to Judy read the whole book. And did you ad-lib anything in that it wasn't?
No. Oh my God. They're so mental about that. But when I did what's a better, this whole book is an argument, and to be able to use the greatest comedian's material to prove that argument, that was the greatest. So when I did the other people's jokes, I tried to get I didn't imitate them, but I got the essence of their delivery.
You absolutely did. You absolutely did. I highly recommend listening.
Thank you.
So how do you know if people are laughing for the right reasons at your Jewish jokes? You talked about that earlier.
I have been doing this for 40 years. And you just know that when they laugh, at what point they laugh. Like when you tell a joke to someone, because everyone, loves telling jokes, and they're laughing at the wrong part, you're like, no, that's not the point. No, you can tell. You get a sense of, Joe, you get a sense when you're, oh, they're liking this, they're not liking this. Or if you're I think jazz and comedy are so similar because you have this sort of, idea, and then you can everyone takes a little, let me play with that. But you can definitely tell. You can tell by their body language. You can tell if they're like, you're so hyper aware when you're up there.
Someone asked if you've ever turned any gigs down because you think that it won't be the right audience.
Yeah. Yeah. It took a while because I would do anything for, in the beginning, but absolutely. I'm not going to put myself in a position to be around, it'll just make me feel bad, and sometimes I'm like, no, you don't want me. You don't want,
Somebody else would like to know, should the Holocaust be off limits as for jokes for people who are not Jewish?
I think so. Yeah. I am for free speech, but no, I'm sorry. I don't talk about slavery. George Santos is the most disgusting, horrible, but yeah. And if you're going to write a joke about the Holocaust, it's got to be 1,000 times funnier than any other joke,
Thank you. And with the increase, with the Jewish community is on edge with the increase of anti-Semitism, rightfully so. But do you think in this time of censorship and political correctness that sometimes the community may be calling out things as anti-Semitic and they may not be? We're just so on edge.
Absolutely. I think so. I think we have to pick our fights. And, there's nothing worse than seeing two Jews fight over what's offensive. Like I went on News Nation to talk about this whole "you people" thing, and with an Orthodox woman who her whole mission is to stop these negative tropes about Orthodox Jews. And you know, I don't separate Orthodox and, you know, assimilated Jews. I don't, you know, I don't, we need to be together on this. So, you know, it's a movie. This is a movie. There's so much other stuff that is way more dangerous. If you keep nitpicking, you know, we really have to pick our battles. And I feel like it's really important now more than ever to talk about this stuff as much as possible. But you know, she's come after me, and it's like, I'm on your side. And I also got canceled from a gig. I did a joke, I don't know, 4 years ago. I don't even know what it was, but I was doing a joke for this Jewish and LGBT group. And I had a joke about pronouns and how I, you know, sometimes I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I don't know what to say. And this was new in the pronoun. It was 4 or 5 years ago. And I said, did you ever go to, you know, a store and you buy a blouse? And they're like, did anyone help you today with this purchase? And you're like, oh my God, yes. Right there, curly hair, really helpful, walking towards the dressing room. Like, and there were some trans people that didn't like that joke, and I was canceled. And I thought, I wrote them a letter. I can't even tell. I turned into my mother. I have spent my entire adult life fighting for your rights, you know, as an activist for your dignity and your rights and equality. And I treated you in my act like I treat every other person or type of person that I'm talking about. And so, yeah, we eat our own here, and it's not good.
As we wrap up, one of the generation, I guess your son's in it, my son's in it, college kids right out of college, they seem to be the generation that gets very easily offended by a lot of things. They did not grow up on All of the Family and all of these other comedians.
Yes.
What is your advice to this generation of young people about cancel culture and censorship?
Well, I think you need to do your due diligence. I think you need to watch old comedy. I think you need to realize that, you know, words have different meanings for someone my age than they do for if you decide a word is no longer, like, for instance, I was doing, I play Carla the Crossing Guard on this Sesame Street, what is it called? It's on Apple TV. It's The Helpsters, okay? And we had this, my first line was, hey, everybody, are we blah, blah, blah. And I'm shooting it, and they're like, action. And I said, hey, guys, and they're like, cut. And, you know, you're not allowed to say guys anymore. Now, I'm 60 years old. When I say, oh, you guys want to go out, like, it has nothing to do with gender. It is like, you gotta stop and realize we don't have bad intent. We are not your enemy. You know, stop. You're picking on the wrong person. You know, like this woman who came after me and was like, this Jewish woman, and was like, you know, you don't understand that, you know, we are, she's, I guess, from the Hasidic community, or, you need to talk to us because you don't understand us. And I'm thinking, no, you don't understand me. You don't understand. I'm gay. I mean, you don't understand. There's more than one way to be a good Jew. And we need to respect one another and come together and fight this, because no one on their way to Auschwitz was asked if they were kosher. And this constant, it's not these microaggressions. There's real aggression. That insurrection, that was real aggression. Defecating in people's offices, that's aggression. These microaggressions, if the person is not purposely, saying that or doing something, then teach them. Like I had to teach people, I'm gay. I just want to get married because I want my family to have the same tax benefits. And, we're not getting, when gay marriage passed, right? Number one, there was more gay in New York, more marriages that day than at any other point. And where did they go get married? At City Hall. They didn't go to synagogues and mosques and churches. It's about, it's about seeing things. There's more than one way to see things. And, and understanding. Like, who thought I would ever agree with Dick Cheney? He's pro-gay marriage because his daughter's, gay. But it's just constant. And I think the people who are censoring, and I think the people who they love this. They love when Jews are fighting. They love when the Jews and blacks are fighting against each other. It gives them more power,
All right. Well, thank you. And on that note, we really appreciate you taking the time, spending this hour with us and with Joe. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to plug Judy's show. Yes, I can say that. It's coming out in a few weeks. Premiering
March 4th, 59E59.
And Judy and the whole show have been generous enough to provide us with a discount code that we'll email to everybody. So if you were in the New York area, it's a limited run, correct? It's only through...
It's March 4th previews. Opening is March 21st. It runs through April 16th.
So you have a limited amount of time. Do you think you'll be taking it on the road at some point?
Oh, I hope so. Like from your mouth. Okay. Yes.
Well, I'm going to say
I think it's a really important show. I think it's a really important show.
Absolutely. So
and
again,
it's funny.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Joe. And we will see everybody next time. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank y'all.